Good morning, everyone. It's Junie. There is one other thing I just realized that I may have missed looking at Jack and Lily's missing astrology chart. Their criminal astrology. This is not looking at their birth chart or their natal chart. This is not looking at the stepdad's natal chart. This is not looking at the mom's natal chart. This is looking at the event chart over top of their house at 10 a.m. when they were reported missing. Now, I kind of have a feeling that time might be a little off here. I'm not really sure if we're getting all the right times. And remember, time is very important in criminal astrology, especially in criminal astrology. So let me just go over the one part in the chart that I may have missed or overlooked. That just popped into my head this morning. As you guys know, I use books, criminal astrology books, and there is something that I think I should also bring to your attention. Now, like I said, I'm trying to read the energies on the astrology, the energies surrounding these planets, the energies surrounding the signs. Okay, when someone goes missing, and we pull the chart that's directly all the planets that were sitting over top of this trailer when they went missing. Okay, so let's look at the chart real quick, and I'll tell you where I think I should also add this in. Now, I'm not saying what I said before is wrong. I still agree with the chart that I read earlier, but this is also a scenario that we should also not overlook. I'm just saying this is another scenario that we shouldn't overlook. Okay, so in Horror Ray Astrology, the DC line is the open enemy, your relationships with others, anyone who's not us. So that's why we look at the 7th house and the DC line as possible direct enemies to the children. We can also look at the 8th house for murderers, suspects, and, rapists, things like that. What gives me, what makes my stomach stink and why I think that they, a possibility, again, we always want to keep hope alive, all right, that they're alive. But to me, looking at this chart, because I have Pluto sitting in the 8th house of death, this tells me that these children, and it's opposed Mars, so this tells me that these children have already gone through something traumatic. These children have already experienced possibly some type of transformation. Remember, the 8th house rules, death, rebirth, transformation, starting over, fresh start, things like that. But in crime, it is the planet of death. Now, I have the planet of death sitting in the house that rules death. Okay? So, to me, this means that there is definitely some type of transformation that these children could have possibly already have gone through. Okay? Now, law enforcement has already come forward and they feel that they are not alive. Now, this is at 10 a.m. when they're just reported missing. The astrology is kind of showing that they've gone through something traumatic. They've gone through a transformation already. Okay, hopefully not death, but the planet of death is there. So I just need to say that, all right? Doesn't mean that they're past, all right? We got to keep hope alive, but the planet of death is in the house of death. So we can't ignore that. We also can't ignore that we have Uranus and Algol, same degree. Okay, that's someone losing their head. That's someone that's, using their power, abusing their power. Shocking. Okay, over the top. And the 8th house, the sign that's usually ruling the 8th house is Scorpio, but we have Aquarius there, which again brings me back to who rules Aquarius? Saturn. Okay, so Saturn and the moon are really important on these charts, okay? Again, we went missing on a Venus day. So, Venus rules financial issues, financial woes, love, sex, doing things, passion. It's how we love and how we cherish things. But it also can have an undertone of something financial here, okay? So that there could be financial hardship, or that there could be a money element involved in this. Could be custody, could be, like child support. I'm not sure. But I just have to say, somewhere in the mix, there could be an undertone of financial, okay? Or ownership of something. This is mine, right? Because Venus is my possessions. These children are my possessions, kind of a thing as well. We could look at it like that. Okay, so Saturn is in the 28th degree, which is ruled by Cancer. So, I just feel like I may have missed. I still need to tell you other energies as well, and not to put all the focus on the family. There's a lot of focus on the family because Cancer's ruling the AC, which rules the children, knowing that they were probably at home or they're in a place that's very familiar to them. Okay. The moon is in the first house. In horary astrology, the moon being in the first house means that they're nearby their house or they're in a location that's very familiar to the children. They're with someone that's familiar to the children, okay? And it could be family involvement. I can't ignore that the moon is in the first house, so it's someplace that they've probably been before, okay? So, now with Saturn being at the 28th degree, that is a Cancer degree. So again, we could be in a place that's very familiar to them, a place that they once felt safe, a place that they visited with family before, because Saturn is also ruling the 8th and the 7th house, and Saturn is in a degree of family. So that's why I'm leaning more towards family. But Capricorn on the DC, there is one other thing I forgot to mention. It could be someone that's older, someone that's mean, someone that's lean, right? They would have a lean kind of figure about them. Or they could be taller. They could have small, round, beady eyes. They could have a thin face, okay? In Kirsty McIntosh's book, she describes what a Capricorn on the DC line could possibly look like, all right? So if we're not dealing with family, we could be dealing with someone that's a little older, someone that's older than 29 years old, someone that's possibly even up past their 30s or 40s, okay? So that's another scenario, although to me, the first way I read the chart, I feel very confident about. But I also forgot to mention that Capricorn can be someone that's older, so an older person. That would probably be impaired because they're in Pisces, that they could be under the influence of something and that they're older. They could have a distinct walk about them. They could have a limp when they walk. And you can find all of this information when you read Kirstys book as well. So with Capricorn being on that DC like that, you could have someone that's older, someone that has problems with their knees, maybe arthritis, in their body. So, but all the degrees and the asteroid, I have Daniel in the 12th house of sorrow and endings. I have Murray down there surrounding at the end of the matter. Saturn is a disciplinarian. Saturn rules the color black. Aries rules the color red. Pisces rules the color blue, speckled black. Saturn itself rules the color black. And Cancer rules the color silver, the color white, light blues, more pastel-y colors. So the kids, it shows here that the kids were probably wearing white, blue, and maybe lighter colors, silver, gray, and maybe speckled blue. But where their body, something surrounding their body, we could definitely have the color black, or in earth. Because the 10th house rules the color black and speckled white. So it makes me think possibly like a bag, black bag maybe. I'm not sure. But it's in the sign of Pisces, so we cannot ignore the water here. Plus, in the little box down at the bottom, we cannot ignore all the water showing up in the box at the bottom. There is a ton of emotions and a ton of water here, which makes me feel like this crime, if there is a crime, that it would be more personal, right? That it could be a more personal situation. A lot of emotions that build and burst at the seams. The moon, which rules the children, especially children under 5, we have them in water. The AC line, which rules the children, is in water. We have the vertex in water. We have Saturn in a water sign. These are all things that can give clues to where a body could possibly be, okay? So, we cannot ignore the water. We cannot ignore water treatment plants. We cannot ignore sheds that might have fishing gear in it, water sheds, places where boats are kept, docks, piers, things like that. Anything that is a water source or that has a water theme, even if a street has a water themed name, we can't ignore that either, because the moon is in a water sign and Saturn is in a water sign. So that's a lot of water. Now they could be right near water under bushes, or they could be in the water. Okay. So, I don't think that they're too far away, honestly. But, we could push it out. We could push it out 17 miles at the most, 18 miles. But I kind of feel like we're 1.7 or 1.8 miles away. And if there's a water source 1.7 miles that these kids are familiar with, that they've possibly been with family before, then that's something to consider. They could be in an area that they're familiar with. If I'm going by the time frame of 10 a.m., remember, I'm reading the energy at 10 a.m. So, if they were murdered, I hate to say that word, but if something happened to them the day before or the day before that, and this is the story that they're telling us, the chart is still going to give us clues. The chart is still going to give us a lot of clues. But if we're not getting the exact time, if there's a lie involved here, then that's when it gets a little confusing. Okay. But overall, I'm reading you the energies that I'm seeing right now. And I just wanted to jump on here real quick and say, hey, Capricorn can also rule older people. So let's not forget that. But there's just such an underline of discipline and emotions here. That and just the 4th house, all the Cancer degrees are showing up. And there's a lot of Cancer. And even Saturn is in a Cancer degree, which is home and family, people that you're familiar with, places that you're familiar with. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to add that. All right. Keep praying for these kids that they'll be fine soon. It's heart-wrenching because that Pluto in the 8th house of death, the planet of death, is in a house sitting in death and rebirth and transformation. So either the kids are going through major transformation or they've already been experienced something. To me, this chart is showing me that at 10 a.m., the day that they call 911, these kids have already gone through some type of transformation, because the planet of death and transformation is in the house of transformation. So it's not good. Okay. All right. I just wanted to tell you what I saw. All right. Blessings to you all. Bye-bye now.